Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to In the Zone, holy day of basketball obligation. Today is the day, folks. We've been waiting for this all year. 2025 NBA Draft in the Zone. Pete Coles, Rich Sutter, the dynamic duo here in Westfield, Massachusetts. We've caught a little bit of respite from the rain today, but we've been getting quite a little bit of rain here. We're all kind of waiting for summer to begin around here, but right now it's very, very sunny in the studio. Because Pete and I almost twinning here with our colors. It's beautiful. We did not coordinate that. But we are going to jump right into In the Zone NBA Draft. And right before we get to that, I wanted to make a couple of comments about the draft. Doing the draft this year, I found it very difficult to do the draft this year, honestly, because there was obviously the number one, but then 2 through 6 was really tough. 6 through 15, I think where a lot of teams are bound to make mistakes. And also, I didn't include any international players in our draft. I don't really feel like I have the depth of knowledge about those players to advise, and so this is just a straight 1 through 59 of NCAA players that are in the game right now and in the zone. As we have previously, we'll talk about a couple of our success stories, Pete, in the zone, where we thought Zach Edey last year was the number one pick based on his credentials in college. The international flair was there last year. And I think in the end of the day, Zach Edey had a couple of injuries this year, but will turn out to be a very good pro in Memphis. We also loved Kel Ware last year. Really thought a lot of that young man. That's proven out to be a good pick as well. Trace Jackson Davis is one of my favorites because he's doing well in Golden State. He was a guy we had late in the second round. And if you can get anything in the second round, it's something special. Luka Doncic was a 42. So, Pete, that's what you kind of go into with this year's draft, especially is you got to really wait and see with this draft because although everybody was solid with Cooper Flagg at number one, I just didn't see how they got there logistically on some of these other guys, and so I wanted to run through it. We're going to go through it, and right now, Pete is going to unveil. No big surprise here, but we're not going to break with the theory that's out there, with the train of thought, the groupthink that's going out there. The number one pick, and we're going to roll them down for you here. Pete, maybe take them all the way back up, just if we can, just to where we have Flagg. Can we do that?
No, there's no easy way to do that. So
perfect. So we're going to start out, folks, and you've got our first 15 picks up on the board.
But I'm going to come back to you, so we'll keep bouncing back and forth.
Okay, perfect, Pete. I love it. What a great job Pete did with the board. There it is. We've given you a good understanding of who it is, where it is, and where they went to school. So we look at the programs. One of the things you can take right off the get is that the Duke program, the Duke basketball program, is heavily represented in the zone NBA draft. We believe that there are four Duke prospects that will be good NBA players. I wasn't as high on Con Knuppel as some other people were, but I am very high on Tyrese Proctor, and I think Kaiman Malak will be great. And, of course, you've got the number one. So this is an amazing, kind of a historic class for Duke, to have that much representation, especially where it's not inconceivable that all four of those guys could go in the first round. 3 for sure are going in the first round. 3 out of the 4 are for sure going in the first round. So hats off to the Blue Devils, Coach Shire. But there it is, Pete. Let's put it back up if we can. You got Cooper Flagg from Duke going at number one. Now, this is where I'm going to differ from some people because and this is something also that I'm going to say to some of our young guys, pick your representation carefully. Ace Bailey and his representation have done harm to him in this process right now by not going to workouts, by not being open to talking with teams, kind of having an arrogant disposition about this, and it's not really working. From what I'm hearing, it's not good for Ace Bailey, but I'm going to stick with what I got because for me, a lot of this is based upon fit. A lot of this is based upon what we did a lot of research on is what's on the current roster. What's there now? And again, you have that best available or you have that best fit. And I'm more of a best fit guy because you're building your program in the NBA. And some of these teams, if you look at OKC, you look at now, the Celtics have a little bit of room there to wiggle with the injury of Jason Tatum. But if you look at OKC's roster, who are they drafting? that's going to get in there and make that team. All right, but let's stay with it, Pete. So this is with that thought in mind. San Antonio Spurs, I had them taking Ace Bailey from Rutgers because I felt like for them to take Dylan Harper, having Stefan Castle, now there's talk that Stefan Castle, Rookie of the Year, might be on the move so that they can take Harper and not have an overload in that position. They could trade Stefan Castle and maybe get some frontline help. That's something that I heard.
I have a question. Is there going to be a lot of trades because people are trying to fill more so than normal? Because it seems like this draft is going to be kind of wide open. Is there going to be a ton of trades?
I hope not. Because I don't really go for a whole lot, because it's very confusing when that gets in there, and then they have this guy and that guy, and then they say, well, we're adding in a pick from 30 and 32 and 34. I hope it's limited. I kind of like where the thing is stacked. And if you look at what some of the, like where you have the Nets having 4 picks in this draft, I think when you look at the Nets and you say, okay, how did you build around? What are we trying to build for them? And what you're building there is almost a college recruiting class because you're bringing in 4 players. But let's proceed down the line, Pete, because I'm going to differ with some people here. And this is what made this thing a little bit difficult, because everything you were hearing was Dylan Harper, Dylan Harper, Dylan Harper. And I'm not sure that there's not a trade in the works like you said, but also I think NBA teams head fake all the time. And they give a head fake on this, and then they actually draft somebody else. I think the pick for them right now, having Stephen Castle, having Victor Wembanyama, to go is Ace Bailey. With the Philadelphia 76ers pick, Pete, I'm going to go with Derek Queen there. Again, we're going to differ here. A lot of people have him down on the list, okay, where it's more in like the 10 and 12 range. And I think that he's up here. Now, there were a few things that were disappointing to me. When he measured out, he only measured out at 6'9" and change, all right? And also his agility testing in the camp and his shooting testing in the camp, in the combine, were not of number 3 material. Okay, but I've watched him play. He's got a great feel for the game. He's one of those guys that if you look at him in the gym, you go, wow, I don't know. He's got this and he's got that. They even said he had a little bit of a hitch in his shot, which after Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons, I think might be a concern for a lot of people. But he's a big wide load that can handle the ball, catch the ball, pass the ball, and I think he's going to be okay. He's got to really, really refine his offensive game, because some of the stuff he got away with in college is going to wind up right back in his face when he gets to the pros. But the Charlotte Hornets right here, I hate to do it to him, but Dylan Harper is going to be a good pro. I don't contest that. And if the Spurs were to take him at 2 and then move Castle or move Harper, I think that would be good. But I think you have a little bit more known with Castle, Rookie of the Year. And I think the Charlotte Hornets, could certainly use that. They have Brandon Miller. They could use a little bit of wing help, some shooting help. And Harper certainly had himself a good year from Rutgers. I want to say the Utah Jazz in the 5 spot wind up with Trey Johnson from Texas, averaged over 20 points a game as a rookie. You don't see that very often. Again, a little bit. There's some of these guys, and the colleges should stop doing it right now, because this does matter. You're hurting some of the draft potential of these guys. When everybody thought Ace Bailey was 6'10", and then all of a sudden he shows up at the combine at 6'7" and 1/4. And the same thing is true here with Johnson. Everybody thought Johnson was in the 6'7", 6'8" range. When they take him into the combine, he comes out at 6'5" and change. So I don't think the colleges are doing these guys any favor by doing that, because there's no advantage to them. You're not intimidating anybody by listing a guy 2 inches bigger anymore. Nobody's falling for that. But the Wizards at number 6, we're going down there with Will Dawkins, our good man out of Springfield. Will, I think, is in a good position here. I think they've done a good job. They've taken Alex Sarr. They took Koulibaly. They have some good frontline players. I think VJ Edgecombe is a good fit here. He's mercurial. He's certainly got the athletic ability, but I don't know if he's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or he's Scoot Henderson. I really can't tell you right now. I think he's a little bit of in between. He's got great athletic ability, but he's got to be able to put something positional together. Is he a 1? Is he a 2? That's what happens when people say to me, Coach, he's a combo guard. And I go, that means he doesn't do anything, well.
He doesn't fit in anywhere, right?
So I think with Edgecombe, a little refinement would be helpful there. I'm not exactly sure, where you go with that, but I would say Jeremiah Fears and Edgecombe very close. And if they went and took Jeremiah Fears, did their homework, I think that might be helpful to them. Also because Fears might have a little bit better offensive bag, and I kind of like his shiftiness. Edgecombe is coming at you 100% right down the line. He's a great athlete, 6'4".
I got a question like that for a play like that that's kind of in between. Would that do well for a team with an aging point guard, kind of like the LA Lakers, that could use somebody that could bounce back and forth as somebody like a LeBron plays some of the game at point and some of the game at 1 and some of the game at 2?
That's a fantastic point, Pete. I think that you're going to see some of that happen around the league. There are certainly some of those available. And again, what do you think you need for your team the most right this moment? And some of these teams like the Wizards, they need guys that can come in and play right away, And so I think Edgecombe could possibly do that because he does have an NBA frame and body and athleticism. Now, the question is, will the bag catch up to the athleticism? Does the shooting and the ball handling and all that stuff come in? And the refinement of position is really going to be key for that young man. Is he a point guard? Is he a two guard? If he's a two guard, he better lock himself in the gym and shoot 1,000 shots every day because his jump shot's not a pro caliber jump shot right now.
Okay.
If he's a one guard, he's going to have to get into Peyton Manning mode like he did when he was a quarterback for the Colts, and he's going to have to study film. He's going to have to read up on NBA, play sets, how to move faster, how to get into sets quicker, and how to get a team ready and to kind of be a sacrificial player, because that point guard spot has a lot of that in it. But again, if you put him at the point guard spot, he could turn out to be similar to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if he develops, like I said, that offensive bag. But I think they're in a good spot there, the Wizards. That's not a bad pick. And if you want to keep rolling with that young athleticism that they got building there, I think Edgecombe's a nice pick. All right, so here's one that everybody's going to shake their head at. But if you're shaking your head at this pick, you did not watch the Combine. All right, the Pelicans, and I hate to do it because I think this young man has a really, really big, large upside. When I say large, I mean 7 foot, Pete. Averaged 20 points. 10 rebounds out of Stanford, averaged a double-double, and in the Combine, what he showed me was an elite three-point shooting ability at 7 foot. I'm taking him right there. Maxime Renaud, French, went to Stanford, played at Stanford, had a very, very solid career in college. I like it. He's got to get stronger, got to get a little bigger, but Chet Holmgren type player where you can't teach 7 foot, and his shooting ability is elite over time, in my opinion. The Brooklyn Nets, they have 4 picks, and what I tried to do is build them a team, because that's exactly what they need to do right now, is they need to be in team-building mode, or they need to rally up some of these picks like you were talking about, Pete, and try and make a hit at Jaylen Brown or one of those players out there that is available that they might be able to take in because their salary numbers aren't really high right now because they don't have any superstars on their team. So maybe Jaylen Brown was there and they can trade with the Celtics and get some of that action happening. I don't know, but if they don't, I got them taking Asa Newell from Georgia. Young man is 6'9". Lefty, has skills, can play inside, outside. He's got NBA ready body right now, a little thin, but he's not going to be playing inside in the NBA. He's going to be playing outside, so his length, his athleticism, all of that plays in. A lot of people not as high on him as everybody else is. A lot of people not as high on Maxime Renaud as I am, so I get it. But that's where we're at, folks. That's what we're doing. Toronto Raptors, Pete, all right, they need help. They need help in a lot of ways. Kaman Maluk from Duke, I think is 7'2", is help for them right in the middle. You have Scotty Barnes. They took Grady Dick, and Grady Dick turned out to be a solid player despite the fact that I wasn't a big fan. Thought he was drafted a little too high. You probably could have got him later, but he's turning out to be serviceable for them. I think right now some help in the middle might really, really help them, and Kaman Maluk has got an unbelievable frame. He's got a long way to go in terms of his offensive game, but he could step into the NBA right now and probably get some block shots going for you and also run a very, very good high pick and roll for you. He's going to be at that rim dunking everything, and so that's something that's a really, really significant attribute for Mr. Maluk is his size. In this draft, there is some good size, but very few people have it quite like he does. The Houston Rockets, I held this one because I'm almost hopeful. Some of these picks, I almost got a little, maybe some bias slipped in there. I got a little hopeful. But on this pick, Pete, I really, really think that this would fit so well with the philosophy and the culture of what Houston is building there, because Houston right now is young. they're athletic, and they have some of the best young unheralded players in the entire NBA right now. Put Jeremiah Fears out there with that group. I know they, swung and missed last year, with Reed Shepherd, and we told them not to, but they took him at the 3 pick. It was way, way overrated pick, I thought. And you got a situation like that right here. You can back it up with Fears. I think Fears is a very good fit for them because he's got some boom boom. He's got some boom boom. He can go. He can really, really put it on the ground. He can play the point, and he'll get off the floor and dunk. He's athletic. He's acrobatic. And I really, really think, if I'm an NBA franchise and I had the shot at Edgecombe or Jeremiah Fears, I'd have to really watch a lot of film on that one. And even myself, I had a hard time coming up with that because they're both, I think, going to be very, very solid if they work in their game. Portland Trailblazers, we're going to give them Nate Clifford. We thought this was a fit. They have Donovan Clingan. They have Shaedon Sharpe. We thought this was a pretty good fit. Nate Clifford, we have what's called a profile on In the Zone, which is called the RSS profile. And that's my profile where I put together on a player and I deep dive into their statistical profile and take out a couple of key statistics that I want to really hone in on and key in on. And most of the time I focus in 3 groups of their points, their rebounds, and their assists. I add those 3 categories up together and it creates a score for them. Nate Clifford had one of the best scores, RSS scores, of all the people that we measured. Unbelievable year at Colorado State. He's got a great NBA body. We'll see if he can keep working and get bigger and stronger, but I think he's going to be solid in the pros. San Antonio will take this top pick, and then you'll have to have a next fit. And so Portland, they'll have what's their fit. I think Nate Clifford is a pretty good fit out there. Chicago Bulls, Will Riley. A lot of NBA teams excited about this young man. I get it, but I also think he's a little bit more of a tomorrow player than he is a today player. And I think that would be a solid pick for the Bulls. I know he's been invited to the draft green room, which means he's most likely going to be taken in the lottery. I'm a little surprised by that, but that didn't really impact my thinking. He had some monster games early on this year. He can really shoot the ball, and he's almost 6'9", folks. He's going to play out on the perimeter, going to grow into that body and that frame, and I think over time he's going to be a really, really good addition to the Chicago Bulls if they're able to draft him there. 13, we're going to move, Pete, to the Atlanta Hawks. This young man's really interesting profile and story. Cedric Coward started out at Willamette, which is a Division III school.
Okay.
Moved out of Willamette into a Division I school, eventually climbed up the ladder to Washington State, and had entered into the portal, and originally in the portal had a pretty good arrangement with the Duke Blue Devils for big money to go to Duke, to transfer to Duke. So everybody kind of thought as in the portal as him being at least one of the really, really good additions that you could add to your team. He's 6'6". He shoots the ball well. He's fluid. He can defend. He's got length. I think he'd be a solid pick right here. And that's Cedric Coward coming out of Washington State.
So what brought him out to the draft then? If he's got a good deal, if he had a good deal in the NCAA, what's bringing him to the draft now? Do you know?
I think that was just personal decision, really.
Okay.
Like R.J. Lewis. A guy that I'm very high on. I like him a lot. But where he's going to go in this draft, he certainly could have got more money going back to college.
Yeah.
Certainly could have got more money going back to college. And St. John's and him had a little bit of acrimonious relationship, possibly at the end there, where it ended in that last game where it was a little bit of a sad story, a sad ending in there. But if he would have put himself on the market, I think he gets a bigger payday, much bigger payday than he's about to get in the NBA. And so it's about making choices and decisions, and we're going to talk about some of the guys who took their name out, and had they left their name in, what would have happened to some of these other guys, because some of the guys we would talk about as taking their names out were probably first-round picks. Boogie Fland was in, then he was out. Otega Owe was in, then he was out. So the NIL's helping some of these guys, and I think R.J. Luis might be one of those guys. But let's keep moving, because this is what I'm talking about building. So if we're going to give Ace Bailey to the Spurs up top with the number 2 pick, the Spurs come back out now at 14. And here's where I'm going to give them Con Knuppel, because I think this is too high for Con Knuppel, personally. I think he's overhyped, really. And I think he's great shooter. So I think in this instance, with Wembanyama, I think that would be a good fit to space the floor and have that dead-eye shooter out there. I think you could get away with it here, but I think that there might be some other guys on his board that you would look at if you were the Spurs. But I like this one in this situation because I always want to space away from your star player. You want to have, when teams overload, double team, you want to really make them pay. I think Knuppel can be a guy that can make them pay, on that rotation, but I think he's going to have a world of trouble on defensive end, and I think he's going to have a world of trouble athleticism-wise. Could be wrong on that, but I think he could turn out to be a Ben Braun type player in the NBA. Really, really good shooting ability. Just not sure he's as tough going to the rim as Braun is, but he can develop that. OKC Thunder, I like this pick here. A lot of people have him way, way down here. This young man was one of the leading scorers in the nation, played at Villanova, averaged over 20 points a game. He's lefty, smooth, has a big frame, 6'7" and change, where all of these guys came in and they lost, their height. This guy stayed solid, 6'7" and a half. I really like his scoring ability, and I think OKC Thunder right now has an ability to take in a player like Eric Dixon and really develop them slowly, let them come along. But this young man can score the basketball, and I like him in this pick. Maybe they could flip somewhere up and down here. Here's one, I'll give you next, Memphis Grizzlies. I took this one here. The Memphis Grizzlies, I gave them Adu Thiero out of Arkansas. He has the ability to be a human highlight film in the NBA. He can jump, run, get off the floor, and dunk anything. I think he's got a little bit of an upside. I put him with Memphis Grizzlies because they have Zach Edey up front. They have John Morant at the point. They just traded Desmond Bane, so I thought maybe somebody on the wing. But putting this guy out on the floor with John Morant is going to give you two unbelievable athletes that are going to space, create problems for people at the rim, and that's going to open up your shooters. This guy could be a battering ram of sorts for you. But I like that pick there as well. Adu Thiero, maybe a little bit further down in the draft, but on the fit of having him and Morant out on the floor together, that's why I jumped on it. Minnesota Timberwolves, Ryan Kalkbrenner, 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. In that trade, where the Knicks went on and they lost Big Cat, took in Julius Randle. I thought they lost a little bit up front. I thought they could use some help up front, and that's why I went with Kalkbrenner here. I think he's going to be a solid pro. He can help you away from the basket a little bit. He's going to block some shots, run the floor, get into it. He's going to have some strength issues, but that didn't really show up in college. They talked about that a little bit, but it didn't show up. All right, Washington Wizards. We gave you VJ Edgecombe. All right, and now you have Koulibaly, you have Sarr, so you got a nice 1-4-5 there maybe, or 1-3-5. I gave him Danny Wolf out of Michigan. I think this young man has tremendous upside. Started out at Harvard, took a big leap up to the Big Ten with Michigan and helped them win. The Big Ten, he's a winner. He's huge, 6'10", got hands, can shoot it pretty good. The one knock on Danny Wolf, which I was very surprised when I dug way into it, was his free throw shooting is not great, not where I'd like it. I'm more of a money ball guy, where if you're out on the floor for me, you better shoot 75% or better from the free throw line. You better shoot 45% or better from the floor, and you better be over 38% from three-point range. And so those are the big three that I like to see. And I think, you got a good shot with Danny Wolf there. And the Wizards, he'd be a nice fit, I think. I think he'd be a nice fit there. The Brooklyn Nets, here we go, Pete. You got 19. So, again, we're building. Asa Newell, 6'9", wing. He's going to be a 3-man, a 4-man. I put Walter Clayton in here because I like Walter Clayton, and I think Walter Clayton's going to be a guy who's very shifty, shoots the ball at a very, very high level, and he's a winner. You saw that in the Florida game. You saw that in the finals. You saw him leading this team back time and time again from being down. That's one of the things I like about him. I'm going to go Walter Clayton there. And, again, it's fit. We gave him Newell. We got Walter Clayton. Now we move to the Miami Heat at 20. Again, Heat culture, Heat fit. This is how they're going to be thinking, and I know that they're thinking this way. I'm going to throw them Grant Nelson from Alabama. I love this young man. Went to Alabama. He's 6'10". He just was one of those guys that, I'm going to talk about Dylan Cardwell a little bit later for the Lakers, but a guy who was in a great team with a lot of pieces and a lot of great players around him, and he still managed to shine, do some great things, and I think this is an absolute steal for the Miami Heat right here if you can get them. Utah Jazz, I'm going to surprise people with this one. And this is, I'm a guy who's going to watch your NCAA career and see if it translates to the NBA. I think you think Tristan Da Silva on this pick a little bit. Dawson Garcia out of Minnesota. I like this young man because he's 6'10". He can shoot, he can handle, he can pass. Tremendous free throw. He's a money ball guy at 6'10", and I like that. Utah Jazz could use a little bit of help up front. I mean, they have, a lot of different things circling about Lauri Markkanen and all that other stuff, but we'll have to see how that goes. But I think that wouldn't hurt for them to take that step right there. Dawson Garcia going to the Utah Jazz. 22, Atlanta Hawks, Kasparas Jakushunas. I don't know. I think a lot of people are high on this young man. I'm not as high. He's one of the guys that's listed way, way above here, and I did not list him. I didn't draft Agor Demin from BYU. We can talk about that a little bit later, but some of these guys, I think, after 1 year, you've been in the NCAA, you had a good year, but it wasn't something that was a defining moment for me. I think Jakushonis would be okay. 22, I think even a little bit high for him. 23, Indiana Pacers, Rasheer Fleming. I almost moved him down a little bit, St. Joseph's. That's because of a little bit of bias, because I went through my brain a little bit, and then I came up at Bones Highland from VCU as who are the Atlantic 10 guys? I mean, maybe the guy from Dayton last year that got hurt. Who are the Atlantic 10 guys that have come into the NBA and really shown as first-round picks? Haven't seen a lot of them, but I think this young man has a chance. Rasheer Fleming out of St. Joseph's, going to the Pacers. He's long. The Pacers need some help up front. I think he'd make a nice little fit there. OKC Thunder, don't pass on this one. Norshad Ormir started out at Miami, ended his career at Baylor. He's a double-double waiting to happen. He's a rebound machine. I think on OKC, you have a chance to bring him in, develop him, and put a little bit of time between him and the floor, and I think he could develop into a very, very solid pro. Again, here, Pete, we're going to surprise some people with this one. Orlando Magic, they got into a trade with Desmond Bane where they wound up taking Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies, and they gave up a whole lot of draft picks and a couple of players as well. We'll talk about that next week if we can, but I'm going to give him here, and this is, again, surprise. I didn't see this young man in a lot of mock drafts. I get people are south on him, but he's 7 foot. Left-handed. He can shoot the three, step out, block some shots, do some things for you. Hunter Dickinson of Kansas. He can't be a Wooden Award winner guy and then he's off a draft board. That's what I feel. Thought he had a great career at Kansas. Is he the toughest guy in the bar? No. Is he going to be able to help an NBA team as a late first-round pick? Absolutely. I wouldn't go past him here if I'm Orlando. The Brooklyn Nets, we go bang, bang here, Pete. 26-27, going backdoor on the back streets, Pete. Cam Jones out of Marquette. I love it. I love this pick for the Nets. I love it. We're going to give them Asa Newell. We're going to get Cam Jones on the wing. This guy started out of Marquette, again, almost a player of the year nationally, and people don't have him on their draft board. People don't have him as high as we do. I love this young man. Now, does he translate? We'll find out. Brooklyn Nets, we're going to give them another big. They need help up front. They have Clowney. They have some other guys, Claxton up front. But there's a little bit of help here. And this guy might surprise. I think it had a very good combine and really in almost Scottie Pippen-esque fashion kind of came out of nowhere. Brooklyn Nets are going to take Yannick Conan Niederhauser. His name might be the reason nobody knows about him. It's way too long. We're going to call him YKN from here on out of Penn State. I think the Nets would do themselves well there. You get Cam Jones. You take a little shot with Yannick, and you've also got some pretty good guard play coming as well. The Boston Celtics out of Alabama. We're going to give the Boston Celtics because we think they need help in this position a little bit. Mark Sears. I think Mark Sears is another senior Wooden Award winner candidate, and everybody's like, well, one of the things that happened with Sears is he was overhyped. He was overkited and overhyped. They flew him too high, and then he comes into the combine and he's just about 6 foot. Okay, but there's other players in the NBA, Trae Young, Peyton Pritchard, T.J. McConnell, that aren't 6 foot, maybe, that are in there and playing and doing great things. I think Mark Sears kind of caught a bad rap. This guy can fill it. He can shoot it. And he can play the one for the Celtics, which I think with Holiday being injured, sometimes, that you might get a little help there. Phoenix Suns, Colin Murray-Boyles, everybody's very high on this guy, all the way up into the lottery. Sorry, folks out of South Carolina, I'm just not as high. Phoenix Suns are probably going to lose Kevin Durant, so I threw Colin Murray-Boyles in there, but I honestly don't know that he's in the first round. Really, in my mind, I threw him in there. He could slip to the late second round in my mind. I know everybody else has a pretty high profile on him, but I see some translatable issues to the NBA for Mr. Murray-Boyles. Number 30, close out the first round, Pete. We're going to go Vlad Golden out of Michigan, big 7-footer. Recently married got engaged on the floor, on the basketball floor. I love that. He's going to get married. He'll be in a serious relationship. He's a hard-working young man. He'll come in and give your program a really big lift. I think the Clippers could use some help up front, and Vlad Golden, legit 7-footer. And he started out at FAU with Dusty May, helped them make that run, and then also wound up at Michigan. The kid's a winner. I like him a lot. Minnesota Timberwolves at 31. I think this might even be a little too high, but I don't know. Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown, 6'10". He was a freshman this year, had a good year, profiled out in my RSS profile pretty well because his numbers were good, but Georgetown was bad. You got a bell curve a little bit sometimes. When you're looking at Georgetown, they're just bad. They threw him the ball a lot. He got a lot of touches. I think his inside game is unrefined, and I don't think in the NBA he's going to scare a whole lot of people at his size and length, but we'll see. Boston Celtics love to draft Caucasians, and Oregon, Nate Biddle will make that fit very, very well. They have Baylor Shearman. They have Nehemiah Quater, but I like Nate Biddle a lot. I think Biddle could slip up into the first round. He's 6'11", big, out of Oregon, Dana Altman program, who's been able to really prepare guys for the NBA. I think that's a really, really good pick. Now, and again, here's where we're going to get crazy because a lot of people don't have a lot of these guys as high as we do. Some of them don't even have them on board as we do. And we're going on based on what they did in the NCAA. Is it all going to translate? I don't know. But I think when you take a guy like Caleb Love, who's a really established player, and say he's going to be a second-round pick, I think you have to look at this second round where there might be some good picks in this second round. And so we're going to go through it right there. But Biddle to the Celtics at 32 because they have a white player obligation in Boston. 33, Charlotte Hornets, Amari Williams out of Kentucky. I love this pick for them. And I think Amari Williams is going to be a good pro. He's long, block shots, get up and down the floor if you're a team that wants to play fast. And this team right now, the Hornets have a back-to-back pick right here, Amari Williams out of Kentucky. And I also gave them from St. John's, R.J. Luis. I think you're getting a steal here at 34 if you get to R.J. Luis for the Charlotte Hornets. Not sure he's going to be around at that time, but we'll see. Philadelphia 76ers at 35, Pete. We went with Bryce Williams of Nebraska. Very, very high RSS profile. Has that length you like to see, scoring ability you like to see. Also profiles very, very well as a money ball guy. His free throw numbers are solid. His field goal numbers are solid. Doesn't turn it over at a rate that's terrible.
And the 76ers need all the help they can get right now.
The 76ers need big, big help. That's why I had them draft Derek Queen, because you just don't know with Embiid. You know, you don't know if he's going to be around. So you have Tyrese Maxey. They also have Paul George over there, another guy that there's question marks hanging all around. I just think right there, that's why I wanted to give him a big. They were talking about some people taking Con Knuckle there, Edgecombe, if Dylan Harper slipped there or Bailey slipped there. I think they need some help up front, and that's why I gave him Queen. I think he provides that, especially like you're saying, Pete, they need all the help they can get.
And they need it right now. They don't have time to develop a player.
They do not. You're 100% right. I wouldn't be surprised to see them if you're talking trades. Like, can you trade Paul George now? Can you trade Joel Embiid right now? And if you do, are you going to get anywhere near market value in that situation?
Yeah.
I don't think you are. All right, so the Brooklyn Nets, I like this pick. He's going to fit in well with the other picks that we gave them. I like Kadari Richmond, first out of Seton Hall, transfers to St. John's. I thought he does have an issue with his shooting, but if you're looking for a glue guy, if you're looking for a defensive guy, a role player, a guy who's going to go out there and give you hustle minutes off the bench, I think this is a really good pick right here, Kadari Richmond. You might get a steal here late, Brooklyn, if you get into Kadari Richmond. And here's the Detroit Pistons. I love this pick for them. This young man really showed well at the Combine, and when you show well at the Combine, I think you're playing against some of the best, and you really brought it and raised your level of game. Another guy that got de-heightened in the process. Jameer Watkins, 6'5.5" now. Really shot the ball well, though, in the combine, and he has athleticism. What I like about him is he's always in the passing lanes. He's got very high steal numbers. He's an aggressive, active defender. And if you're looking at some of these young guys that come in on your NCAA, NBA bag, a little bit of ability to play defense doesn't hurt. But I think Jameer Watkins is a pretty nice pick for Detroit there. Detroit's got a pretty nice young team they're building. San Antonio Spurs, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I gave them, they have Knuppel. I'm going to go Liam McNeely because Liam McNeely's also from Texas. He won't have to pack his bags if they wind up cutting him. I'm not as high on Liam McNeely as everybody else is. I think a little more time at UConn would have been good for him. But right now I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs because that's a hometown pick. Might get some jerseys sold. You might put some seats, some fannies in the seats, and a guy who probably isn't going to play a whole lot on your roster. Toronto Raptors, I like this pick right here, Pete. I hate to send him to Toronto. He's one of our New York guys, Nelly Jr. Joseph. Walter Clayton and Nelly Jr. Joseph both started out at Iona and then wound up getting into the portal and transferring. Two pretty good portal transfer stories. You got one at New Mexico, Nelly Jr. Joseph playing for Richard Pitino, and then they both played for the dad as well. So I think they've had good upside here with Nelly Jr. Joseph. He's long, he can run, he can jump, and I really like him. He's aggressive around the basket and dunks everything. Washington Wizards right here. I don't know if he'll slip all the way. And another guy, I don't know how you can consider a guy to be award and award winner, and a lot of guys don't even have him on the board. I kind of was surprised that he slipped as low for me as he did, but Janai Broom out of Auburn, the Wizards, you're getting a solid pick here if you get Janai Broom. I can't promise you he's going to be there, but he was for me. Golden State Warriors. Now, there's a point guard on the board here. If you're looking for somebody who's tough, somebody who's a proven winner, because he was at FAU with Dusty May. He was on that team with Vlad Golden, with Janai Davis, that wound up making that Final Four run out of nowhere at Florida Atlantic and launched Dusty May into the coaching ranks now at Michigan. Same thing happened with Elijah Martin. He wound up at Florida, and together him and Walter Clayton formed a very, very good backcourt. Do not sleep on Elijah Martin. He's tough, gritty, and an above-average athlete. He'll take it to the rim and dunk. And I think over time, he could be a very, very serviceable point guard in the NBA. Sacramento Kings up next, Pete, at 42. I like Caleb Love here from Arizona. Because he can score the basketball. And that's something that in the NBA right now with the wide open floor, you got space to shoot. And if you put him out on the floor, Sacramento, Pete, they need everything. It's one of these things when you're picking for a team, you look at their roster and go, oh my God, they need this, they need that. They have Sabonis, they have a couple other pieces there, but I thought that was, that's not a bad shot for them. Caleb Love, they give him some punch, give him some scoring, and Caleb Love, he'll shoot the ball during the national anthem. He's got confidence. He really, really thinks every shot he takes is going in. And sometimes that can be beneficial, but other times that can be also a little detrimental. He'll shoot you in and he'll shoot you out. But again, another guy who relies very heavily on the three ball, but doesn't have to. He's got some pretty good athleticism about him. Utah Jazz at 43. A lot of people high on this guy. Me, not so much. I think we're going to go Kobe Sanders out of Nevada there. Big, physical, can score the basketball, can get up and down. He's 6'8", 6'9". I just think positionally he's going to have some problems. Excuse me. I didn't think he showed up in the best shape also, but I could be wrong about that. He just didn't look like he was in great condition for me. OKC Thunder, I'm going to say OKC. We'll get into the Thunder because everybody has this guy in the top 10 picks, Pete. Everybody has Carter Bryant out of Arizona in their top 10. This is the guy. He's got upside. He's got potential. Why didn't Arizona play him then? Why didn't he have a better college year when he was only there 1 year? Why was his year as bad as it was? Now, I'm ready to bite. I'm ready to say, okay, Carter Bryant, but at 44.
That's a major question mark, though.
Yeah, we're not biting at 10 with this guy. He hasn't put up double digits in Arizona in college yet. Didn't have double-digit rebounds. So if you want to take him over all of those aforementioned guys that we put up there with good college credentials and records, and you want to gamble at 13 and 12 with this guy, go right ahead. But I think, OKC Thunder, they don't need him right away. They could develop him. This might be a good place for him. But any higher than 44 right here, based upon his credentials, you're a crystal ball guy. You think you can predict the future. And I don't think there's a whole lot of that successfully going on. Chicago Bulls right here, I think this guy should be higher. But the point guard spot here, if the Celtics took this guy, I would think that it was a solid pick because I think the Celtics need help. I had the Celtics taking Mark Sears because I love his shooting ability, and the Celtics are all about the three ball right now. So Mark Sears really, really fits in well with that. But Tyrese Proctor was one of the best basketball players in the NCAA coming down the stretch. He's a very, very good sized for a point guard. He will dunk on your head if you let him go to the basket, and I think he's got tremendous, tremendous room to improve. But if anybody looks at the last 12 regular season games of the Duke Blue Devils, obviously you had Cooper Flagg doing some good stuff, but Tyrese Proctor was their number 2 player for sure, and at times was their best player. So I think if you can get Tyrese Proctor at 45 for the Chicago Bulls out of Duke, you're doing something good there. Orlando Magic at 46. L.J. Cryer out of Houston. A lot of people not giving this guy his credentials. He can shoot, he can pass, he can play defense. And he also came up through the ranks and played for Kelvin Sampson, which I love. He's got the athleticism, but I think his shooting ability could really help space some teams. And Orlando Magic, when they have the Wagner guys inside and they've got some good size there, I think they need some ability to stretch the floor. Late second-round pick, you're not going to go wrong with L.J. Cryer, folks. This is what I'm saying is a lot of people have, you could go get this guy. But L.J. Cryer has done it, and these other guys haven't. And that's where you lose me. Here's a guy that I think, Milwaukee Bucks are going to lose most likely Giannis. There is nobody on this board that's replacing him. There's nobody. And so if the Bucks don't fare well in that trade, kind of setting themselves up for a really, really long couple of years because you're going to have Dame Lillard out with an Achilles just like Jason Tatum next year as well. So if they're not careful here, they're one step in this trade. If they get rid of Antetokounmpo, they're one step away from obscurity. They're one step away from being buried in the basement of the NBA. And I really, really, I love the Bucks franchise. I remember them when I was a kid with Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Started there before the Lakers picked them up. I just love to see this franchise get a little bit better. But right now, I'm going to give them Oumar Ballo. I get it, why some NBA guys might not be 100%, but he's 7'1". He can get up and down the floor. He can fill up some middle space for you. His offensive skill set isn't quite there, but if you need a big body, go ahead, take him. Oumar Ballo out of Arizona originally, but now finished his career at Indiana playing for Mike Woodson. There was some issues there at the end where, but again, when you're in a losing program like that, and again, we're talking about second round. He's a big body. He can fill some space. Memphis Grizzlies at 48. We're going to go Micah Peavy from Georgetown. Maybe an under-radar guy here. Produce some good numbers at Georgetown. He's 6'6", 6'7", good frame. Shoots it, handles it, does some good stuff. Also a money ball guy. Really, really solid numbers across the board. I like that pick right there from Memphis. Cleveland Cavaliers, we're going to let this guy stay home in Xavier, Ohio. He was a Xavier pick, got hurt the year before, came back for Sean Miller this year, had a really, really good year. I like Cleveland Cavaliers taking hometown, homegrown Zach Fremantle with this pick. I think that's a steal at 49 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Very serviceable, big man that can shoot the ball, handle the ball. I think with the players that they have on this team, Fremantle fits in nicely into that fold. I'm going to give you one here with the New York Knicks. I'm just praying that this happens because this guy will make Madison Square Garden into a carnival. This guy will come off the bench like a T.J. McConnell, like a Peyton Pritchard, and he was one of the best players in the entire NCAA tournament. I get it. He's a little bit smaller, but he's another guy who thinks he can go in and conquer hell with a water pistol. Okay? This guy has confidence that's brimming. I don't know if he's going to make it. He'll spend years in Europe, but I would just love to see the Knicks light up the Garden with this guy, bring him off the bench and have him go crazy because he's that type of player. The Clippers, you got Eddie Lampkin out of Syracuse. And nobody's got this guy on the draft board, but you haven't been watching basketball. You haven't been watching closely. 6'11", big man. Can get it, can grab it. Hands are good, rebounds well. You want to see him get in better shape, get up and down the floor a little bit better, but he'll be a good high ball screen guy. And he is enormous. And when you have enormous with good hands, you can work with that. And again, not going to be instant help for the Clippers, but the Clippers need help up front. Eddie Lampkin could be a nice body for them. They've got Harden. They've got Kawhi. You just need some pick and roll guys. You need some body guys, and certainly Lampkin can do that for you. 52 Phoenix Suns. This guy played very well in the Combine, had a very good year at West Virginia. Javon Small, probably the best guard still left available. Didn't really care for what I saw from him on the defensive end at the Combine, but right now, I think in 52, Phoenix Suns need help everywhere, Pete. I think they could use a little bit of scoring on the guard spot. Javon Small will bring that to you. Here's one for you, Pete. Utah Jazz, just like the Boston Celtics, they love to draft white players out in Utah. They've got Kyle Filipowski out there. I think this is a good one, if that's your thing. Tyson Degenhart out of Boise State had an opportunity to watch his career. Does not have an NBA frame, body ready, but he's 6'8", shoots the ball adequately, very, very high IQ. Here's something I'm going to say to NBA general managers as well. If you don't need the guy right away, why don't you draft one of the highest character guys you can get your hands on? Degenhart certainly is one of the highest character guys that I can see left on the board and would be a very, very nice addition to somebody's team. Indiana Pacers, out of Butler, another guy we're going to leave him home in case he doesn't make the team. He's out of Butler. We're going to put him with the Indiana Pacers. Jamil Telfort, good numbers. Good profile. Played for Todd Mata, who was at Ohio State, so he's used to sending guys to the NBA. I think the Pacers could do well here with that. They need a little bit oomph in the middle there, and Telfort might provide that for them. I like this pick here for the Lakers because this is the Lakers' only pick. And the Lakers, when they lost AD, picked up Luka, they left a hole in the middle. And right now, at 55, you're not going to get, Moses Malone ain't sitting there at 55, all right? But Dylan Cardwell is. And Dylan Cardwell's got an NBA frame and body, and he's one of those guys that was kind of unheralded because he played on a team with Chad Baker-Mazara, with Janai Broom, Tahad Pettiford. He played on a really, really talented team. And sometimes their talent can be obscured in that mix, and that's when you – as a scout, as a guy, you really got to dig. And he's 6'11", almost 7 foot, solid hands. And I think at least for the Lakers, as a young project, they could bring him in and go. But again, knowing the Lakers, they might just draft Bronny James all over again at 55. Memphis Grizzlies, John Tanji, shot maker, guy's clutch. He can do it. He's got good size. Went to Wisconsin, played in the Big Ten, was almost player of the year in the Big Ten. I think he's got a tremendous upside in the NBA because the kid knows how to make shots. He's a Walter Clayton type. He won games. At the end of the game, they wanted the ball in his hands. So if you're getting John Tanji at 56 from Wisconsin, I think you're doing pretty good. 57, the Orlando Magic, I'm going to go again. Give them more size. Get them bigger. But we're going to give them, in addition to L.J. Cryer, we're going to go Cliff Amourier, who was originally at Rutgers. Had they been able to hold on to him with Harper and Bailey, I think they might have had a better year. But he's out of Alabama this year, had a very good year for them. He's a rim runner. He's a shot blocker. He's a pick and roll guy. He's not going to be a step out stretch five. He's not going to cover the floor for you like that, but he's going to be able to do some stuff pretty well inside. Cleveland Cavaliers, I like this pick. Tamar Bates out of Missouri. Tough, gritty, up and down the floor. He's a glue guy. He's going to do all the hustle stuff. I want you to think of the guy who used to play for the Celtics, Mr. Keith Smart. Not Keith Smart. The other, it's slipping me right now. Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart used to play. Tough, physical defender, can really get after it, and he's pretty decent offensively. Goes at the rim hard, can get after it with a pretty solid shooting profile. All right, here are the Houston Rockets again. Let's keep them home, but I like homegrown picks because you might put some fannies in the seats and you might sell some jerseys because you might be somebody's favorite player. I'm going to go Juwan Roberts out of Houston. If you played for Kelvin Sampson, you're pretty solid. You're going to be ready. All right, Pete, that's it. 1, 2, 3. I've got a couple of things. We've got a few minutes left, and I kind of anticipated that because I kind of almost timed myself the other night when I went through this because I want to make sure
You plowed through those picks, man. Holy cow.
I want to make sure we get there, in an hour. And Adam Silver needs 2 nights to do it, but Rico Suave can do it in 1. All right, but here's a couple of guys that they may get drafted. It depends on fit, depends on need, depends on what the team has been looking for and what they got. I'm going to give you a dirty dozen of guys that might get a look. All right, we got Julian Reese of Maryland. I really wanted to draft him. I want to do a little research. I think that's Angel Reese's brother.
Okay.
Okay, I think out of Maryland. Okay, he's solid. He's a 4-man. Played alongside Derek Queen this year, and I talked about it a lot on the show. I thought they had one of the best front courts in the entire NCAA this year. So Julian Reese might be another guy depending on your bag. Kobe Brea was at Dayton, went to Kentucky. Shooter. If you leave him open, he's going to crush you. I don't know about him getting drafted, but certainly getting invited. Cam Matthews, Mississippi State. I just never watched. This guy never cracked out for me. I looked at his athleticism, his body, his frame, everything screams NBA prototype guy, but I was waiting for him to bust out, but he never really did at Mississippi State. Solid. Great career there. Surrounded by some really talented players as well. But again, Cam Matthews, Mississippi State. I'd like to see him get an invite. Here's a guy I had a tough time keeping off the board. Mark Mitchell from Missouri. Had a fabulous year out there. He also started at Duke, transferred out of Duke, and really did well for himself at Missouri. Somebody got to invite him. And again, I'm talking to maybe some European groups and some European teams later on that'll be looking for players of this ilk who didn't get drafted and who's really that next best cut. If you get Mark Mitchell in Europe, you're going to be cooking with gasoline. Drake Powell, North Carolina. I didn't draft him. Everybody's high on this young man. He did not show me enough at North Carolina. I'm sorry. We didn't draft him, but I'm sure he'll get invited. Another guy right behind him, Jace Richardson, Michigan State. A lot of people high on him. We did not draft him as well. Again, somebody get invited. Powell and Richardson are 2 guys that what you talked about earlier in the show, Pete, it's really what I'm talking about too. If they had stayed, they're going to get a bigger bag staying at the college level in the NIL world right now. And coming into the pros right now, I don't know where, those guys could slip, and they did for me. They slipped out because really neither one of them showed me enough. In that 1 year, you wanted to show us a 1-year profile. I'm a one and done. I think that there's going to be less and less of that as we go on, as the development takes place in the college ranks, and then you move on to the pros. Because the pros are certainly getting, if you look at past drafts, with all of the drafting that went on, with the amount of F grades that are in the first round, that's just unacceptable. And part of that's because they're always grabbing at potential rather than grabbing at what's right in front of your eyes. It's like the Eagles with the new kid in town. Everybody's talking about the new kid in town. Well, what about the guy that's been in town for 4 straight years and done a great job for us? I see that happening there a little bit. But Powell and Richardson kind of register in there for me. Joe Tugler out of Houston, tough frontline guy, played for Kelvin Sampson. He'll bang. He'll probably make an NBA team. He could be drafted too. Here's a guy I wanted to put on my draft board, but I didn't. And I think he can make an NBA team too. Earl Timberlake out of Bryant. Started a couple of different places, went to Louisville, a couple of different places, but wound up at Bryant. He's long, he's got length, he's very solid, led them to the NCAA tournament this year, did a great job. I just think he's worth a look. Bring him in, see what he can do. Solomon Johnson out of UConn. In the beginning of the year, I would have said he's a second-round pick, a late first-round pick. As I watched him, I really believe that Tarris Reed's a better player than him. If you're an NBA guy and you want to wait a year, you can get Tarris Reed. And Solomon Johnson kind of was a disappointment to me because his offensive skill set is just really far away. And defensively, and he gets caught in some situations, his reads aren't great. And so Solomon Johnson out of Connecticut, I think he'll get invited, but I don't know if he makes an NBA team right now. Chaz Lanier out of Tennessee, certainly can shoot it. R.J. Davis out of North Carolina. I didn't go with him because I don't think he's a good fit in the pros, but his numbers, his profile from North Carolina, certainly get an invite, get a look, maybe even a late-round draft pick. North Carolina's got a lot of juice. I like this kid Cam Jones out of Robert Morris as well. I thought he had a great NCAA tournament, did some really good stuff. Now, Pete, this is the last I'm going to close with, but this is what I'm referring to as the scholars class. All These are the erudite young men of the portal and NIL who chose to return to the library, to do dissertations, to do great academic work at $4 million, $3 million a pop. Okay? Did they make a good determination, Pete? That's what I want to give you right here in our scholars class. Should they have stayed? You hear the Clash playing in the background. Should I stay or should I go now? I think some of these guys might have stayed. And some of them went, but that's because the money's just as good. They can come back next year and pick up the pro contract as well. So Darian Williams, he was at Texas Tech. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but he wound up going with Will Wade down to NC State. NC State's in rebuilding mode, and I think Wade's going to get it done really, really quick. But Darian Williams just walked off a possible NCAA championship team. With Toppin coming back, Grant McCaslin, new contract. You know, I think if he had returned, they're looking at maybe being a top 5 team. I just don't understand why these guys do it. The differential in the money can't be that significant. Tahad Pettiford, he was in, then he was out. Came in, lit up the combine, but the best they could really get him, you know, was in that late first round, early second round, and he decided to go back. Probably a good move, right, Pete? Big bundle at Auburn, or you're going to be a late second round, late first round or early second round pick. Alex Condon out of Florida, another young man who made a good pick. I have Wolf, I have Nelson, I have Golden. I have those guys ahead of him right now, but coming out next year after a good year at Florida, take a shot at repeating, take a shot to come back. Why not? Yaxel Lendenberg going to Michigan. This is a guy I think that might have played himself out. He should have been in the top 10 or top 15 picks this year. Would have been a really good first-round pick. I know he's getting paid a bundle at Michigan, going to have a good time over there, but he's coming out of UAB, going to Michigan, and then next step pros, and that's what Dusty May is able to say to people right now. We had Wolf, and we took him, and he went 1 year, and boom, now he's going into the NBA. And so you can take that, and you got a little bit of a profile building there. All right, I got to go quick now, Pete. Milos Uzan, very happy with Kelvin Sampson. He was returning solid. I think he did himself a favor going back. You know, he would have been maybe late first round, early second round. LeBaron Phelan from Alabama, really good idea to go back. I didn't have him getting drafted. Miles Byrd, San Diego State. That was the one I thought, he could fit into this first round somewhere. Otega Owe, Kentucky, thought he could fit in as well. Carter Knox going back to Arkansas, taking a big payday from Coach Calipari. Smart move. Boogie Flant to Florida with Xavion Lee. Big dollars. I can't believe that Kentucky, with all that chicken money, got beat to Boogie, but Boogie said, I got a Boogie. And Boogie maybe is looking for a program that has a little bit more consistency to thread to it. And also, P.J. Haggerty was at Memphis. Had he stayed in, it definitely would have been a first-round pick, but he went to Kansas State, and Kansas State didn't bring in a lot. So you can imagine what kind of bag Mr. Haggerty got from Kansas State. Pete, that's my favorite show of the year, Pete. I love it. I love doing this show, but the NBA draft show, I work on it all year. It's a culmination of things. Now I'm going to go have a glass of wine, chill out, and get ready for next week. But this is where all the work really was, and I was just ripping up page after page after page. I think we got it right. Pete, we're in the zone. We'll see you next week, folks.